Dāmas un kungi, Latvijas ārlietu ministrs Edgars Riņkevičs un Dainis Ivāns. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Latvia, accompanied by Dainis Ivāns.
President Vējonis, President Grybauskaite, President Ilves, Mr. Vice President, Madam Speaker, Ministers, dear friends of the Baltic States and the United States. We meet today on the 23rd of August, a day full of symbolism. In 1989, 2 million citizens of the Baltic States joined hands, forming a human chain called the Baltic Way, stretching from Tallinn through Riga to Vilnius. It was a call for freedom, and it was a call for return to the family of free European nations, and the call that was heard by the world. As fate would have it, and proving that freedom does not come for free, the signing of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in 1939 also took place on the 23rd of August. That infamous pact led to the division of Eastern Europe into the spheres of influence. It led to the beginning of the Second World War and the occupation of the Baltic states in 1940 by the Soviet Union. For 50 years, the 3 Baltic embassies in exile, which were located in Washington, D.C., and stood as symbols of America's commitment to independence and its support for freedom of the people of the Baltics. Today, honoring this commitment of 25 years after the re-establishment of our diplomatic relations, we stand here in free, independent, and democratic Latvia, a state which guards the basic values that our nations cherish: freedom, human rights, rule of law, and democracy. For more than a decade, the Baltic states have been full-fledged members of NATO, contributing to the security in the Euro-Atlantic area and beyond. Dear friends, we are grateful for the Vice President Biden's personal role in helping to bring the Baltics and Central Europe in NATO. As you yourself, Mr. Vice President, noted once in a public speech, it's easy to forget that this was a hard-fought battle on the floor at that time. Just to recall, there were voices raised at home and abroad against NATO enlargement to Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Voices both loud and whispered that NATO membership was happening too soon, that it was half-baked, that the alliance could be jumping the gun. Other naysayers cautioned that NATO should never include the Baltic states, since Russia might not be happy. Mr. Vice President, we admire you for hearing and knowing all these discordant voices and yet relying on your counsel and your own inner compass. We today again applaud your leadership in expressing support for our membership in the alliance. I recall you once referring to a joke by President Clinton that NATO must be offering to move its headquarters to Delaware because you, as a senator representing Delaware, were so passionate about NATO enlargement at the time of critical vote on the ratification of our NATO accession protocols in the United States Senate. History has shown that the Baltic states cannot view their security in isolation from each other or from the global challenges that confront us. The promise of Europe whole, free, and at peace, regrettably, is still at risk in the 21st century. Risk awareness underlines the necessity to retain our common ability to meet challenges to freedom and democracy of any kind and from any direction. To the east, we face a power prepared to redraw existing borders of sovereign states by force. We see this in Ukraine, we see it in Georgia, and we see it in Syria. The Baltic response has been an ever stronger determination to strengthen our self-defense capabilities and our solid commitment to increase defense spending. Furthermore, we recognize the importance of enhancing national resilience and the security of our borders. We are ready to pay its bill and pull its own weight. The continued presence and leadership of the United States in the Baltic states is critical. We are highly grateful for the support we have received through the persistent rotational presence of the United States troops and regular joint exercises on our land and by air and sea. President Obama has said that for NATO and the United States, the defense of Tallinn and Riga and Vilnius is just as important as defense of Berlin and Paris and London. These are words in which we take heart. These are words which build confidence in our country and our region. The recent NATO summit in Warsaw has put these words into practice. Mr. Vice President, dear friends, on September 5th, we will be celebrating 25 years since the renewal of diplomatic relations with the United States of America. You have always been an advocate of the Baltic cause. With your staunch personal support during your tenure as Vice President and before, you have been the backbone of the United States policy vis-à-vis the Baltic states. Your unwavering support for strengthening Latvia's statehood and Latvia's accession to NATO made you the worthy recipient in 2006 of Latvia's highest honor and award, the 3-Star Order. With 40 years dedicated to government service, serving the people and the greater good, you have always been at the forefront of freedom and ready to show its path. We applaud you for your exemplary service, not only to your own country, but for the fortitude, the determination, the guidance, and the friendship you have given to others, including ours. Dear friends, now let me introduce Mr. Dainis Ivans, former chairman of the Latvian Popular Front and the symbol of Latvia's awakening period. That was a period, as Mr. Ivans has described, the will of the people can be stronger than the troops of agonizing and dying empire. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dainis Ivans.
Dear friends and allies, today, while welcoming the Honorable Vice President of the United States of America, Džo Baidena, to Latvia, I would like to say a couple of words about dreams. 77 years ago, August 23rd brought occupation and slavery to Latvia. The only things they could not take from us were our dreams. The human chain of Baltic people 27 years ago reminded everyone that Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians still dreamed of freedom, and that the non-violent battle for regaining their freedom had begun. Shortly after the Baltic Way, I met American writer William Safire in Riga. He admired our achievements. He doubted whether we would be able to break loose from totalitarianism and added that dreams sometimes turn out to be bigger than harsh reality. Shortly before the Baltic Way, I had the honor to meet Mr. Zbigniew Brzezinski in the United States. The former national security advisor was optimistic in dreaming about things that even we did not really believe in yet, that the heavily armed and aggressive Soviet Empire was not reformable, that it would collapse, and that most likely, it would collapse thanks to anti-communism and our national freedom movements. On January 20th, 1991, after the bloodshed in Riga started by the Soviet army, it felt as if our dreams were starting to collapse. It was then that the New York Times published an essay, almost a call for action by William Safire, in which he reminded the American people of Thomas Jefferson's quote about the Tree of Liberty, which reads, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." On that day, the tree was watered with Latvian blood. For me, as the representative of the Latvian Supreme Council to Washington, the doors of the White House, the United States Senate, and the Congress were open. The most touching moment for me personally was in the era before mobile phones. I received phone calls from regular Americans wishing the best for Latvia. 6 months later, on August 23rd, those wishes became reality. Not long after, I gave a tour of the not yet removed barricades around the Latvian Parliament building to one of our first guests to independent Latvia, Zbigniew Brzezinski. He was thrilled about our regained independence, and if it had been his own dream that had become a reality. The United States of America, as a country, and the Americans as our friends and allies, have meant a lot for us during the years since that time. Our ties and friendship have only grown stronger. It is critically important that the visit of United States Vice President Baidena to Riga on this significant and crucial date for Latvia, as well as Lithuania and Estonia, August 23rd, is not merely a dream. It's reality, in spite of Russia's war toward our brothers in Ukraine, and in spite of the darkest nightmare of many Baltic people, for example, of a possible Putin-Ribbentrop pact. The presence of the Vice President of the United States of America, Džo Baidena, now today in Latvia, encouraging me and even my grandson that compromise between renewing tyranny and democracy is impossible in the modern world. Thank you.
That's a graceful entrance. I say to, I don't often get to speak to three presidents twice in one day in the same room. I want to thank them for their hospitality, and I say to Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you so much for your remarks, your opening remarks, and your commitment to advancing the alliance. And Denise, your grandson, the older he gets, the more he's going to appreciate all you did for your country. And you have, as my father were here, he'd look at your grandson and say, son, you have very good blood running in your veins. And I want to say thank you to all of you for not only dreaming dreams of independence, but for organizing the proud people of Latvia to ensure those dreams actually became a reality. I'm honored to share the stage with you, and ladies and gentlemen, your country has long stood at the crossroads of civilization. This land, a link between North and South, part of the ancient trading route from the Vikings to the Greeks, a bridge between East and West. And through it all, you build an identity all of your own, a unique language, an unerring conviction that Latvians deserve the same rights, to be treated with the same dignity of all other people on earth. Even this beautiful building is a tribute to Latvia's heritage. The Castle of Light symbolized the sacred place in Latvian folklore, the home of all Latvia's wisdom and learning. Until one day long ago, with Latvia overrun by invaders, the Castle of Light sunk itself deep into the lake, as the legend has it, and emerged again only when Latvia was free once more. So I'm proud to stand here today, here in a free and independent Latvia, here in your modern-day Castle of Light. and to be speaking to you on a day that bears such significance in the history of your nation and the history of the Baltic states. As you pointed out, Mr. Minister, 77 years ago today, Hitler and Stalin made their secret pact to plot to deny the freedom of the Baltic nations and other nations throughout Central Europe. It was a day when the machinations of men sought to overthrow those God-given rights which are equal inheritance of all humankind. The years that followed were bitter and they were long. But the people of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, you survived and thrived. 50 years later, standing together, you reclaimed this day. No longer would August 23rd be a day of betrayal and infamy. It would be a day when you showed the world, and I mean this literally, you showed the world the Baltic way. I remember, as a member of the United States Senate, that vision that was portrayed of 2 million people holding hands, hundreds of miles, forming an unbroken chain from each of your capitals right here to Vilnius. I was amazed at the time. You inspired the world. You inspired all oppressed people. The world saw the eternal and indomitable spirit of the Baltic people. We saw the Castle of Light once more alive in all of you, and we saw you regain your freedom. And I'm proud to say that through every trial and every testing, the friendship between our peoples has never wavered. When each of the Baltic states declared independence after the First World War, the United States recognized and welcomed Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania to the community of sovereign nations. And from that day to this day, your nations, our nations, have never, not for 1 minute, enjoyed anything less than full diplomatic recognition of the United States of America. Less than a year after the Nazi-Soviet pact, with just a few short paragraphs known as the Wels Declaration, the United States made it known that we did not and we would not accept Soviet occupation of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. In some ways, the Wels Declaration was a simple restatement of American principles. I quote, "The policy of this government is universally known," it said, and then went on to describe the policy in no uncertain terms. "We believe in the sovereignty and self-determination and territorial integrity. We condemn predatory actions carried out by threats or force." Nothing could be more straightforward. It's the same sentiment that I expressed on behalf of our administration just months after we were sworn in at the Munich conference in 2009. What I said then holds true today. I said the United States does not recognize spheres of influence. We believe, and I quote, "sovereign states have the right to make their own decisions, choose their own alliances." That remains a universally known policy of my country. The Wels Declaration laid out principles that would eventually be sealed in the Atlantic Charter, one of the foundations upon which our international system has been built from that moment on. And for the Baltic people suffering the cruelties of occupation, it did something even more important. It kept alive the ember of independence. Even when your nation's flags could not fly here in Riga, even when they could not fly in Vilnius, even when they could not fly in Tallinn, they waved proudly in Washington, D.C. They never did not wave. Even when your language or traditions were pushed down, the world did not abandon the Baltic people. And after the Baltic Way, after the barricades of old Riga, when you finally fully regained your cherished independence, you returned our faith in you by showing exactly what the people of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania could accomplish. In just a few short decades, the Baltic people have built true democracies. You opened up economies that unleashed the ingenuity of your people. You believed in the idea of Europe. In my opinion, one of the most audacious and consequential visions of the past century. The idea that after centuries of conflict, Europe could reinvent itself as an integrated community, one committed to political stability, the free flow of goods and people, and a solemn obligation to collective defense. Europe, whole, free, at peace. You believed it. You worked to be part of it. And as one of your staunchest supporters in the United States, who fought hard for your admission to NATO, I know, I watched, it obviously wasn't easy, and it was never inevitable. You earned it, implementing necessary economic reforms, building vibrant democracies, enhancing your defense capabilities, striving toward the standards of membership. And those of us who always defended your right to self-governance were all the more proud to see you take your place as full allies in NATO and members of the European Union. Today, the Baltic states stand as testament to the power of the European project. Our belief in you, our commitment to keeping the door to membership open to all those who share our values and our commitments, was critical, in my view, to your success. It's why the expansion of the Euro-Atlantic community has been one of the greatest forces in human history for advancing peace, prosperity, and democracy, not to mention security. And now, not only are you successful and integrated part of Europe, you're the example of nations set by the inspiration of those who seek to follow your path. At a time when some questions the continued belief in Europe integration, your nations are a powerful reminder how much more can be accomplished when we bring down the walls that hinder cooperation rather than erecting false divisions. And today, of all days, we remember and celebrate the power of the Baltic Way, the power of standing shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand. That's particularly true when it comes to your shared security. The commitment we have made to one another to ensure our collective defense as allies in NATO has for decades been the cornerstone of global stability, and it remains so today. Let there be no doubt, America's Article 5 commitment is rock solid and unwavering. We have made a sacred commitment. Our honor has been pledged, and we never, never fail to meet our commitments, not just for now, but forever. President Obama believes that to his core, and so do I. And despite what you hear in this heated political season, there is a wide, deep, bipartisan commitment to NATO in my country. Don't listen to that other fellow. He knows not of what he speaks, and he doesn't know of what he speaks. We will never forget that Article 5 was triggered for the first time after the United States was attacked on 9/11. So America will never fail to defend our allies. We will respond. And with Russia once more taking aggressive actions and threatening the sovereign rights of its neighbors, NATO remains as vital today as it ever has been. Aggression still happens in Europe. We must all be ready to answer that aggression. That's what Article 5 means. We're all prepared to step up, not just the United States and the Baltic states, but all of us. An attack on one is an attack on all, period. End of sentence. It's that basic, it's that simple. And we want you to know, we want Moscow to know, that we mean what we say. We underlined that message last month in the NATO summit in Warsaw, when Allied leaders decided to enhance NATO's forward presence in the Baltic states and in Poland. Canadian troops will take the lead here in Latvia, German troops in Lithuania, British troops in Estonia, and the United States will lead NATO's presence in Poland. On top of this, the United States will send a full armored brigade combat team, 4,200 combat-ready American troops, to provide an on-the-ground deterrent force not only in Poland but for the region. This brigade will be headquartered in Poland, but they will be training and exercising here in the Baltics on a regular basis. 170 exercises and security cooperation activities are planned just in 2016. This increase in American force, plus pre-positioned equipment for another armored brigade combat team, and together with NATO's enhanced forward presence, represents the greatest Allied commitment capability deployed in the region since the end of the Cold War. And specifically in the Baltics, the United States has augmented our security and defense cooperation with more than $100 million in new assistance to help bolster your capabilities, build resilience, and deter aggression. We're improving our ability to work together and your ability to interface with NATO defenses. Just recently, we delivered Javelin anti-tank missiles in Estonia, secure communications equipment in Lithuania, medium-range air defense radars right here in Latvia. And by the way, NATO has never been a one-way street of what America can do for allies in Europe. The United States gains enormous benefits from your membership in NATO. We, the United States, are stronger. We are more secure because of it. Our entire ability to conduct our foreign policy worldwide rests on a Europe whole and free and secure. It's the basis upon which we're able to project power anywhere else in the world. And the Baltic states are among the leaders in demonstrating that commitment to our collective defense. Estonia is one of only a handful of allies spending the full 2% of their GDP on defense, as requested by NATO. Both Latvia and Lithuania are well on their way to meeting this benchmark by 2018. Together, we're taking important steps to strengthen all of our defenses and show a strong deterrent commitment, so neither Russia nor any other nation can ever question the resolve or the capacity of this alliance. And because Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania know too well what it means to be deprived of your rights, because you know the high price to be paid when freedom is cut short, the Baltic states were also among the first voices to rally the international community in support of Ukraine's democratic development and impose cost on Russia. And we thank you for that. As Ukrainian people fight bravely to defend their democracy and independence, the Baltic states offer a powerful example and inspiration. You are living proof that it's possible to break free and build strong, independent, vibrant democracies and to become full members of the European community. At the same time, the future of Europe, whole, free, and at peace, hinges on improving cooperation and integration across Europe, including here in the Baltic states. Regional cooperation has been vital to the success of Latvia and all the Baltic states. And regional cooperation is what brought me to Riga today. Earlier today, I attended a Baltic summit where we spoke about a broad range of issues, where Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are already working closely together, and how the United States can continue to foster the partnership among our nations. So many challenges in a globalized century can only be met by acting hand in hand. We are more efficient, we are more effective when we work together to mitigate cross-border threats, to strengthen our shared security environments. That's particularly true among close neighbors. And together, the Baltic states have already done a great deal to advance your shared interests and shared values. Today, I was encouraged by the mutual resolve for the Baltic states to continue deepening your cooperation to improve border security, strengthen cyber defense capabilities, foster more inclusive societies, grow strong and innovative economies that are built for the 21st century. And I want to congratulate the people of Latvia on the milestone you reached earlier this year, joining the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It marks an important recognition of Latvia's progress and heralds your place among advanced economies in the world. Another critical area where Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia will all benefit by continuing to work together is by strengthening energy security as well. Not long ago, this region was known as the energy island, cut off from the rest of Europe. And the Baltic states know as well as any nation that national security consequences of being energy dependent. You lived it for the past 25 years, but recently you've made significant progress in diversifying your energy sector to ensure you are no longer dependent on any one nation for your energy. Here in Latvia, you've taken important steps to liberalize your gas sector, which allow the formation of a fully integrated regional market in the Baltics. And with the inauguration of Lithuania's liquefied natural gas terminal, appropriately named Independence, you took a huge leap forward to end the Baltics region's energy reliance on Russia. It's impressive. The progress is impressive. But there's work still to be done. It's important you follow through on your efforts to diversify energy supplies and increase connections to Europe so that no country can use energy to undermine your sovereignty. And the time to act is now, because this is a transformative moment in global energy markets. The United States and North America, Mexico, the United States, and Canada will be the energy epicenter for the 21st century, in part to our abundance of natural gas. We moved from anticipating massive imports of liquefied natural gas to becoming the world's fastest growing exporter. For the first time, gas from the United States is being used here in Europe, and every country in Europe can now buy that American resource. That's critical because Europe needs diverse sources of gas, not new pipelines that lock in greater reliance on Russia. Russian gas can and should be part of the European market, but that market needs to be open and competitive. Everyone has to play by the rules. So we're eager to continue working with our partners to help the region secure the energy future you deserve. And finally, these steps will help keep the region moving forward with growing economies, thriving businesses, a thriving business environment that invites investment, and inclusive multi-ethnic societies. But achieving this future requires the people of the region to continue to strengthen your democracies, building what we in the United States call a more perfect union. We are still working on it ourselves. In democracy, it's a civic duty to ensure governments are accountable to their citizens and not the narrow interests of the powerful. The rule of law has to apply equally to everyone. Justice systems must be equitable and efficient and transparent. Otherwise, we will not attract international commerce and business. And in a moment when Russia seeks to use corruption as a tool of coercion and influence around the globe, rooting out corruption is essential to preserve your national sovereignty. It's a cancer to the body politic. It's among the highest acts of patriotism to root it out. It's how you protect the future you have worked so diligently to build. That's what those 2 million people joined hands for all those years ago. Denounced and harassed by the Communist Party, her work banned, your great poet once wrote, "That which passes must shout, must plead, must prove. When it's eternal, it can be kept silent." Such was the character and fortitude of the Latvian people. Like your Estonian and Lithuanian brothers and sisters, you endured the shouts and rages of Soviet occupation, while the silent stones of old Riga sheltered and sustained the Latvian spirit. You survived, confident of your enduring place in the world. But even the eternal cannot stay silent forever in the face of indignities. Eventually, you began to sing. You sang the band anthems of your people. God bless Latvia, Sun, Thunder, and I'm not sure how to pronounce, Dagavula. I mispronounced it. I apologize. You pulled Latvian flags from hiding. You weathered Freedom Monument and flowers of defiance. You took back your country. So today, as we celebrate the remarkable history of your nations, the remarkable story of the Baltics, we have to look to the future. Let us reaffirm our shared belief in the unbroken human spirit and the yearning for freedom that unites all people. Let us together build a future that lives up to our highest values. And let us never doubt that whatever passing challenges we may face, no matter how much they shout or plead or seek to prove, the friendship between the Baltics and the American people is eternal. May God continue to bless your countries, and may God protect our troops and all those who safeguard our mutual freedom. Thank you for having me.